Hi everyone, welcome to Hazelstorm. We're simple folks over here. We're just guys who love outdoor gear. So if you love outdoor gear, and if you love the great outdoors as much as we do, this is the place to be. The reason that we started this company is that I had grown completely overwhelmed by the sea of paid product promotion in a world of honestly cheaply made gear where the real gear that real outdoorsmen actually rely on is buried in this sea. So we strive to be a lighthouse in this confusion to find the best gear on the market. You can find us on all major social media platforms by searching for Hazelstorm Gear and visiting us on our website, hazelstorm.com, for more in-depth gear content breakdowns. That being said, today we're going over an introduction to bushcraft gear. Now, first things first, bushcraft is an outdoor adventure sport unlike many others, as outdoorsmen usually don't try to find the best gear available per se. Like if you want to light a fire, you could bring a lighter or matches and boom, you have a fire. Or if you want the best shelter, you could just hook up a camper trailer to your Ford F-150 and be sitting pretty for a warm and dry night. Now, bushcraft rejects many of these conveniences that might accompany traditional camping. Bushcraft is about getting back to our more primal hunting and gathering roots. It really is a way to challenge yourself. You challenge yourself by going back to these basic tools and focusing on your wit and your skill in using these basic tools to survive. The way that I've best thought of bushcraft is that it's an art, the art of living off the land. Now, armed with these basic tools, you will now be able to use your skill to craft basic necessities of life from the bush or the wild. Hence, bushcraft, crafting from the wild. You usually arm yourself with the bare necessities to go into the wild to build shelter, build a fire, sometimes forage for food, hunting, trapping, fishing, setting up camp. It is different from wilderness survival, as it's less about survival, but more about taking the next step to thriving in the wild. Now, it's focused on self-reliance, adaptability. Bushcraft teaches people to work in harmony with nature. While bushcraft emphasizes using knowledge, skill, and natural resources to survive, it doesn't mean facing the wilderness completely unprepared. So that's when some core tools come into play. And basic and especially primitive tools form the foundation of a bushcraft setup. The interesting thing, however, is that you can choose which tools to forego and which ones to take as a way to further challenge yourself. So it's not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. First is probably the first tool that most think about when starting a bushcraft setup, and that is a cutting tool, aka a knife. Now, it is the beating heart of bushcraft, as the tool is so crucial in the wild for so many things. It can be used for cooking, hunting, preparing food, building shelters, and so much more. Now, I'm going to put to bed the biggest fallacy or lie in bushcraft right off the bat. Now, everyone is in the search for the perfect bushcraft knife. If you go online, it's probably the most oft-repeated topic on Reddit, especially. The funny thing about it is men have been talking about what types of knives does the best tool for the job probably since the beginning of time. It's one of the most common topics that we, as well as our more primal ancestors, had, so it truly is a tale as old as time. Now, the real answer, and this is going to shock you, is that there isn't a best bushcraft knife. Yeah, everyone's gasped, clutched their pearls, or run to the comments and shout your praises of your bench-made folding knife, Moriknov fixed blade. But hear me out. Let's take a chainsaw now. You might say that it's the best tool for cutting down trees. Well, you have a point. Lumberjacks use chainsaws pretty much exclusively. It's the best tool for cutting down trees. Well, maybe. What if you don't have gas? What if you don't have electricity to run the saw? Well, suddenly an axe becomes a better tool than a useless chainsaw. So what's better tool? An axe or a chainsaw? Well, the answer is it depends. Now, how well does a chainsaw or an axe do for buttering bread? Now, just try and see how it goes. It's obviously terrible. Now, try using a butter knife to cut down a tree. Both are knives, sorta. One is not better than the other. They're just different. This flies in the face of a community where guys will take their go-to knives as the golden standard. The type of knife, the weight, the length, the design will all depend on your task at hand. So exactly what you do in bushcraft, your environment, your personal preference will all go into what type of knife you need to get. So the easy answer that I'll give you is that you'll figure out what works best for you. So I'd recommend starting with the basic, starting cheap. Start with our core recommendations and build up from there. Now, bushcraft in an arid Arizona desert will look completely different from Grenada. Now, Survivor Man has done episodes in each of those places, and you will obviously see they're completely different. Before we dive into the exact basic core setup for bushcraft knives, let's talk about price. Besides those heralding their bushcraft knife as the end-all be-all of bushcraft, is the second most ill-conceived notion of novice bushcrafters. Does higher price mean better quality? The simple answer is it usually does, but not always, and not as much as you think. There is a concept when it comes to this, and you shouldn't forget it, is that you might pay double the price for a higher quality knife and only get a 10% higher quality knife, or pay 4 times the price of a budget option and get only a 50% better quality. So if you've seen a butcher's or a cook's knife setup, usually a long line of 10 or so knives that all serve different purposes. So it's probably better to get reasonably priced assortment of knives than a single perfect butchering or a single perfect cooking knife. Aim for the assortment. Modern blade making is actually very advanced. It's also very cheap and also high quality. Long have passed the days of the ancient Japanese bladesmiths slaving for months and months of blood, sweat, and tears to make the perfect sword. Now, it's sad that blade making has lost much of its craftsmanship that it's brought for millennium and millennia before us, but the truth is modern bladesmiths make knives fast and they make them quality. You don't need a top dollar knife to take bushcraft seriously. Our budget options are usually not as good as premium ones, but you'll have to know the trade-offs, and we'll tell you the trade-offs, but you can make a life of bushcraft only in the budget category and have a fulfilling time. Now, the beginner setup we recommend for a bushcraft knife is simple. You won't forget it, I promise. There's 3 knives, 3 core basic knives. First is a fixed blade knife. Second, an axe or hatchet. Third, a folding saw. So a fixed blade knife, an axe, and a folding saw. Boom, that is all you need starting out. A smaller fixed blade knife for preparing food to help with kindling, for building fire, help with fire tasks that require a bit of dexterity. You might be able to split wood, but that's really why we recommend the second blade, and that is an axe, or a smaller version of the axe, a hatchet. It's the perfect for splitting larger logs for firewood and building a shelter. A folding saw is usually much easier to cut down large branches or cut down through large logs. So building a shelter, firewood, things like that. So don't forget it. You have a fixed blade, axe, and a folding saw. Now there are ones that some bushcrafters take, such as a folding pocket knife, especially metal framed ones, sometimes multi-tools, but if you really stick to this 3-knife setup and even opt for budget brands, you won't be disappointed. Where people go wrong is that they research and invest in a very expensive, high-quality bushcraft knife, and they find it's not as great as they hoped. So smart small, build from there. You will know the exact high-quality items to buy over time. You will just know. Now let's get down to some actual knife picks. Let's go over different categories: folding knives, fixed blade knives, machetes, axes, all the rest. So starting off with go-to folding knife picks. The pro version, the ones that most experienced bushcrafters use if they use a folding knife, is Benchmade. Now, the reason that folks go with this company is that the handle to this knife is metal framed. Now, what it allows you to do is it's ultra durable. You can use it to help split wood. You can be a little more rough on it. Now, the budget pick, for example, this Kershaw, pretty much any folding knife, it can work for a lot of like super fine tasks where you need a lot of dexterity, but this Kershaw just has a plastic handle, and so you can't necessarily be super hard on that knife. If you go with a fixed blade knife, there really is the go-to in bushcraft knife is a company called Morkniv. Now there's this company in Mora, Sweden that creates these very high quality blades. They're very high quality bladesmiths over there. Really, the Morkniv companion is only $20 right now, and it's this 4-inch, 10-centimeter blade that works pretty well and often is the go-to for a new bushcrafter. They also sell ones that are a little more premium, have a little more high-quality finishes, high-quality metals, maybe more sturdy handles, with this example with this Gerbarg black blade. Now, some other options that you can go to with bushcraft knives are machetes. Now, machetes are super common in Mexico, Central America, South America. They've been used historically for farming mostly and in very dense forests. There's a few different options here, like this Condor. It's a very, very high quality blade where it has more of a weight at the very end of the blade, but it's a little short. Or you have this Amasco, which is this El Salvadoran machete, which is 22 inches long. So it's almost double the length. So it's very long, and sometimes people use machetes depending on the location you're doing bushcraft, and it works pretty well. Next are axes or hatchets, and there are a lot of good go-tos for axes. Like this is a 17-inch, axe. The Fiskars, really great go-to axe for $72, or there are a whole lot of very budget hatchets that are very common. You can find at hardware stores, pretty much anywhere, that are very reasonable and very good to get the job done. So when it comes to saws, there are a couple of different things to talk about. First is the go-to bushcraft saw is this company called Silky. Now, it's this Japanese bladesmith that creates these folding saws that are super great for the Outback, just like here, the Outback folding saw. Or alternatively, you can find at any hardware store on Amazon these really reasonably priced saws that are used for, like, people use in their backyards for landscaping. So you can really pick any of these options if you want to start with maybe something more reasonably priced and maybe invest later in a Silky. I'd probably do that. So next, you have a multi-tool. Now, in the multi-tool world, there essentially is a debate between the Swiss Army knife, the tried and tested Swiss Army knife, and then Leatherman, which is an American version of a multi-tool. Now, the key differences between the two are the Swiss Army knife, they're much more lightweight, but they're also more traditional. They seem to be, what people have had more often over the course of history. But we also have the Leatherman, which was a newer version of that multi-tool that has pliers. And it's also metal frame. So the Leatherman tend to be a lot more heavyweight. But I think in my experience, having those pliers is a tool that comes in handy a lot of different times for a lot of different things you don't necessarily think. So for that reason, I'd recommend the Leatherman, obviously being a company made in the United States of America. This Wave Plus runs for about $120. I have this tool for many years, and it really is the way to go. There are more budget-friendly versions, which don't necessarily have all the bells and whistles and all the different tools, but they largely have like little saws, sometimes a screwdriver, and then the main pliers, like this $28 one from Mossy Oak. According to ancient Greek lore, the Titan named Prometheus created man out of clay, and in an act of defiance to the gods and to Zeus, brought fire to the humans. With that fire, mankind developed from roaming creatures to creatures of technology, innovation, civilization. Fire was the first technological innovation, so it was the key to civilization. This is a very interesting thought because obviously the ancient Greeks understood very clearly, as evident in lore, how pivotal fire is and how pivotal fire is for us and bushcraft. So when it comes to bushcraft, we practice the ancient traditions of our ancestors before us for thousands of years by building fire. Now, mastering the basics of fire building is simple to understand. The principles are timeless, but fire building takes time, more time than you might think, so prepare to be patient. First, you have to forge for material. There are roughly 3 different types of fire building material that you're going to have in order to build a very good fire. First is tinder. Not the dating app. Tinder is hyper-flammable material that can usually be ignited by sparks. So perhaps the flame of your future love can be ignited by the dating app Tinder. No. The flame of a roaring fire must start with tinder. Obviously, you can't go up to a giant tree and ignite the entire thing with a few sparks. So tinder is light, very dry, fluffy material. It really depends on the location, but natural tinder usually come from things such as dry, airy grasses, wood shavings, dried up brush or bushes. There are also like man-made versions of tinder that you can bring with you to help to start the fire building process. They're convenient. It really just depends on how much you want to push yourself. Now, tinder ignites quickly, burns fast. You have to light more heavyweight material. That's where you forage for kindling. Kindling are small sticks that can be ignited by a few sparks like tinder can, but can be ignited before tinder burns out. You must have kindling ready because igniting tinder is quick and it burns fast, so you have to immediately try to ignite the kindling. The final material that you'll need is proper firewood, so once you have the tinder, light the kindling small sticks, those light as well. Then you're going to use the kindling to light like a log or more thick, dry logs. Now, gathering the material is one thing. Now, picking the right material is probably the hardest thing to learn. But next is learning how to create sparks to ignite the tinder. It takes a lot of patience, and sometimes in the movies people just like rub two sticks together and boom, they have fire. Obviously this is ridiculous for anyone that's actually tried to do this. I absolutely love the movie Castaway, which is I think one filmed in 2000, where Tom Hanks, he acts as a FedEx employee who's involved in a mid-ocean plane crash and ends up stuck on a tropical island for years by himself. And there's a scene where he tries to build a fire, and it really illustrates the real and practical fire building methods because it takes time and it takes a lot of energy. Now, the method that he employs in the movie is using friction of two sticks that you rub together. Essentially, the friction will heat them up and eventually help to ignite some of the tinder. I think coconut material he uses to light. It takes a long time. You have to be very careful about the wind blowing at your flame, but also you have to softly feed the fire by feeding it oxygen slowly, but not too much that you blow out your flame. Yeah, once again, it really just takes a long time, and so he's obviously very proud of himself for being able to create it, and that largely is the story if you're really trying to use all natural means to be able to light a fire. If you go that route, using friction to build your fire, props to you. I think in reality, most bushcrafters don't spend that much time into the fire building, and they'll take modern shortcuts to help build sparks. Most will at least use flint and steel. Essentially, you would strike the steel against the flint stone, and it creates some sparks that you could ignite your tinder. This is a super primitive fire building method, but very easy one once you get the hang of it and know how to strike it an edge and such. Others will use a knife and a ferro rod, which is essentially a modern metal that you use the knife to strike against the ferro rod, and it creates quite a bit of sparks. Or you can just go straight to matches or use a lighter. Now, you can decide for yourself how much you want to challenge yourself. You can go all primitive, no tools, just literally the wild sticks and bows to try to figure out how to build a fire. But there's something about honestly being able to build a fire without any tools but the bush, hence bushcraft, that gives you some confidence in yourself. So when it comes to different fire starting methods, we have the Bic lighter. The Bic lighter is largely waterproof, and so there's a lot of different people who've claimed that they've gone underwater, they've soaked the Bic lighter, and then they've been able to, after the flint, because it uses flint and steel, and then the gas to create the torch, being able to, once that flint dries, be able to use that lighter. So for that reason, just the sheer durability and reliability of the Bic lighter, something a lot of bushcrafters go to. Or it's the other options that we have is we have matches, very self-evident, the ferro rod we discussed, and then the flint and steel. And so those are some different fire starting methods that you can buy. When it comes to different tinder, you can bring with you things to help you light your fire. An example first is there's a company called Blackbeard that creates these ropes which are soaked in oil and covered in wax to make them waterproof and very flammable. And you can just cut off a piece of that rope and then light it to help you replace like natural tinder. You have steel wool, which are very thin steel strands that are very flammable, and it burns very, very hot. You have other things like these paraffin wax fire starters, which is kind of a version of the Blackbeard rope, but essentially it's a block of like waxy, oily fire starting material. And if you want to go true DIY, just dryer length straight from your dryer is very flammable. And you can use that maybe in a combination of like here, this Vaseline that's very flammable as well, you can bring with you if you want to be super budget friendly. Now let's talk about food and water. You can essentially go what's called the rule of 3. 3 minutes without air, 3 hours in extreme cold exposure, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food, or you will die. Usually when people think of bushcraft, they don't necessarily think of foraging for food, but food and water are obviously the most important things. And so some bushcrafters will just bring food with them and maybe try to prepare it in the wild or like cook. If you do want to learn bushcraft, the parts of hunting, foraging, fishing, and trapping food, finding good food and water, I can't necessarily teach you how to do this in a good YouTube video. So much of it really depends on where you live and what sort of resources are available to you. But if I were to tell you anything, it's that this is the absolute hardest part of bushcraft. If you're really trying to like wholeheartedly like live off the land, it takes a whole lot of skill, and it even takes a lot of skill for hunters to hunt with rifles. So if you pretty much just have to have yourself and a knife and be prepared with just that to spend your time hunting and foraging, that's obviously going to be very difficult. So the basics are to learn the environment around you beforehand. You don't want to learn about poisonous berries by experience, obviously. So if people have already eaten a whole lot of poisonous plants for you, so you don't have to, so make sure to do your research. Are there lakes or rivers? Do they have fish? Are there any animals that you can or are allowed to hunt? So some good gear to be prepared with when you bushcraft. First is having a hardy water bottle. There really isn't any sort of secret to this. We have, for example, this insulated water bottle, this Yeti that's very popular these days, or at least come prepared with a Nalgene 32-ounce wide-mouth sustainable water bottle. Other than that, having just a metal pot, like these are small backpacking versions of a metal pot that you should at least have with you. We have, for example, the Pro version, a GSI stainless steel boiler. Now, the stainless steel is very good at distributing heat, and so you can use it for more than just like heating up water. You can use it for a small amount of cooking or heating soups or things like that. A more budget-friendly version maybe is these Toaks titanium pots. They are not necessarily as good as distributing heat, so honestly, if you're going to use a titanium pot to cook food, like I wouldn't do that, it'll burn, but it's super good with heating water, maybe over the fire. When it comes to cast iron is often thought when it comes to bushcrafters because of its traditional design. It's very durable. You can put it in front of a fire. We have a large Dutch oven pot, so you can have a pot to cook larger soups, or at least coming prepared with a cast iron skillet. Now, cast iron is very heavy, so if you're going to be hauling it around, like I wouldn't necessarily go with this, but it's a very traditional and time-tested bushcraft sort of preparing item. Other than that, we have a metal pan. We have this stainless steel folding skillet that's mostly designed for the outdoors. It runs for about $36, or you can find cheaper ones, maybe $20, just a classic stainless steel frying pan on Amazon, and be pretty good as well. But it doesn't necessarily have that folding handle that makes it easily transportable. There's other things you can get, like a long handle spoon, come prepared with fuel canisters and a stove if you're going to have that and not cook over the fire. Coming prepared with some sort of water treatment, so you can maybe filter out the sediment and then boil your water, and you're fairly fine, protected. Or you can go with these water filters. Coming prepared with some fishing items, just a few hooks and line and a few lures. It can be very, very helpful. Electronics are very, very nifty. Cell phones, smartphones are really a dense packed toolkit. And that's how I want you really to look at these items. I want you to make sure to take a smartphone with a battery pack, really just to get weather reports, emergency navigation. You can download offline maps. You can use it to call for help if you have cell service. But I do want you to turn off your phone, though. Preserve the battery and don't use your phone in the wild. Bring it, but don't make this the center of your outdoor experience. Now, when it comes to different smartphones, what I would recommend are the modern iPhones. I think anything after the iPhone 14, when you buy it, comes equipped with emergency GPS messaging. Now, this is a feature very interesting because there's no other like large smartphone in the market that has this feature. So it's great for emergencies if you are without cell service and need to call for help. When it comes to bringing a battery pack, there's this company Goal Zero, Utah based. They sell solar panels and in these power banks that are waterproof. They're very high capacity and can help charge your devices when you're out for a long period of time. And these solar panels have come a long way. Like I've used Goal Zero about 15 years ago, and the technology that they've progressed with is very significant. And if you're in a very sunny area, having this Goal Zero solar panel with you is very awesome. Or you can just get a power bank on Amazon. When it comes to different watches, obviously the outdoorsman would be inclined towards Garmin, because Garmin is a very great GPS navigator. This watch has a 32-day battery life with solar. It's water resistant. Or you can go with some of the latest Apple Watches. We have the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which does have a 72-hour battery life. The GPS navigation is actually itself equipped as a GPS emergency communicator. Having proper clothing is pretty crucial. The nights often get colder than you think, especially in deserts, where it gets hot and dry in the day, that it gets cold in the night. Now, proper clothing can protect you against the sun, insects, the cold, and heavy bush. So let me say a few things. First, I'm wearing long pants and long sleeve shirts. Like in modernity, in city life, when it gets hot, people will just wear shorts, tank tops, short sleeve shirts, sneakers. They'll go about in the city that way. So when people go outdoors, they oftentimes will do the same thing that they do in the city, essentially wearing workout clothes. This isn't really a sustainable solution, though. Most long-term outdoorsmen wear long sleeve shirts and, more importantly, long pants. Now, why, you might ask? Well, you got ticks, you got mosquitoes, an endless amount of insects that find their home in the bush, and they'll want to find their home on you too. So if you can go with insect repellent and be covered in a cloud of DEET, or you can just simply wear long sleeve clothing. Even if it's thin material, because if it's hot, it is a great way to protect against all sorts of things. So going deep in the bush, wearing pants and a long sleeve hiking shirt is really what we recommend. When it comes to shirts and pants, there's this company that's Utah-based, very tried and true premium clothing brand. We have Cool, and they sell this cool shirt, or you can go with a more budget-friendly, outdoor hiking shirt, and they are lightweight. They're very breathable, but they're also very protective of, you won't get tons of mosquito bites, and they help you against cold. When it comes to pants, Cool has these radicals. They run for about $100, and they add a little bit of cotton to give it more durability, like when you're walking through the brush, but they're also very, very lightweight, and or you can obviously go with a more lightweight hiking pack, like, for example, this Moose Hill that is found on Amazon. Bringing jackets is also very crucial. Patagonia, I would say, offers the highest quality value of a puffer jacket for the price. This down sweater hoodie is rated at 100 filled down, which essentially describes how the quality of down that it has in the jacket. Or you can get one that's around $25, $30, made by 32 Degrees. It isn't necessarily it doesn't have as much down, but for the price, it's a very good go-to if you're wanting to start out with a good puffer jacket. So make sure to bring a jacket when you're bushcrafting. Next, rain jacket. Rain jacket, very crucial. Patagonia is probably the most popular rain jacket that's not like a Gore-Tex, that doesn't have Gore-Tex technology. It runs for about $180. It's called the Torrent Shell 3L rain jacket, and it's usually, I think, what most outdoorsmen go to without spending a tremendous amount of money going with Gore-Tex. Or you can just do a classic hooded rain poncho. Don't need to overthink it. Bring a poncho. They're uber breathable. They're very compact and very reasonably priced. Now, when it comes to different hats, this cool EnduroWax bush hat is waterproof. You also want to make sure you bring a beanie, potentially some gloves. These Mechanics, the original work gloves, are very tried and tested and very, very good synthetic rubber gloves, or bringing some sort of scarf with you. Now for footwear, there really isn't anything terribly unique about footwear when it comes to bushcraft compared to like other outdoor activities like hiking or camping. But a good tip is most aim for high cut hiking boots for their ankle protection and wear wool socks. It's the best if you can find merino wool socks. Personally, my first experience with wool was surplus military wool blankets, and know how very heavy and warm they are, but also very itchy they are. But the nice thing about the merino wool is that it isn't itchy. The material is very warm. It's great at wicking away moisture and very durable. That really is about as complicated to get when it comes to footwear for bushcraft, but maybe keep your boots dry. So the hiking boots that we would recommend first is Loa is a fantastic go-to high-quality hiking boot. They're waterproof. They run for about $150 to $200, and so it's a great investment, but you can use it for hiking and all sorts of different things outside of bushcraft. Keen is also a very fantastic boot company to go with, or Merrell, which is, I think, a more budget version of a hiking boot. Like you can see here the difference between the high and the low cut. The Merrells in this photo, they're a low cut boot, while some of these Loas and Keens, they're higher cut. And so maybe this offers you like some protection when you're going through thick brush and bush. When it comes to socks, the go-to usually is these Darn Tough socks. These is a Vermont company that makes socks in the United States, and they're made of merino wool. They're extremely durable. The other option that I go to is Smart Wool. Smart Wool offers a whole assortment of different types of merino wool clothing when it comes to hats, scarves, and even socks. And that it's a little more reasonably priced than Darn Tough. Not necessarily has the track record that Darn Tough has, but I think equally good in my mind. Or you have any sort of like budget, like this Eddie Bauer Moisture Control 6 pair. This runs 6 pairs for $13, and this has some merino wool, but it's a wool polyester spandex blend to make it a little more reasonably priced, but still offer some of the perks of merino wool. Now, shelter building is incredibly crucial. It's the basic human necessity to be protected from exposure from cold, rain, dangerous animals. What exactly you decide to bring for bushcraft is up to you. If you really want to challenge yourself, many will try to forage completely for different plants, grass, things like that to keep you warm at night. The biggest tool that you will need, though, is fire. So you can heat up rocks to stay warm at night. You can stay close to a fire. We'll do more videos in the future about shelter building, as we could talk for hours and hours on this, but we're going to look at a few camping items that you could use when bushcrafting. We have first these tents. These are largely lightweight backpacking tents. This Z-Pack is a trekking pole tent. Essentially, you use the trekking pole as the main pole, and then they have the tarp built around it that requires actually no other support besides that trekking pole to keep it up. It's incredibly lightweight and is used for ultralight backpacking. Or we have Nemo, which sells some backpacking tents, or you can find a reasonably priced one like this Nature Cloud one on Amazon. It's a one-person tent runs for about $90, but it also is incredibly lightweight. Shelter options that you can go with. What's very popular recently is what's called a bivy sack, which is a very, very small tent, not quite necessarily a ultralight backpacking tent, but it keeps it low to the ground, is really meant to house one person. Or you can go with a hammock. Usually if you have a hammock, you want to pair that with a tarp like this. Has a combination of a tarp and then a hammock system. This runs for about $219, but largely it's because of the lightweight features, and it's the go-to hammock brand. Or you can find a more reasonably priced hammock on Amazon. For flashlights, make sure you bring a flashlight. Not a whole lot to say. I probably would aim more with this headlight, just in case you're doing any sort of like work after dark. It's nice to have the freedom of both hands, and so Black Diamond has some good headlamps for around $20 or $50, depending on the quality of headlamp you want. Largely the difference in quality is the amount of lumens that they have. So the ones like this Spot 400 is a 400 lumen headlamp, while this the one that's at $20 is 300. Or when it comes to flashlights, you can do like my favorite is the Maglite, a handheld metal flashlight. Has a lot of track record behind it, made in the United States, or you can get any sort of flashlight on Amazon. When it comes to sleeping, you want to bring a sleeping bag. Like, I know you might really want to push yourself in bushcraft and maybe find other ways to stay warm at night, like using nature. But I think if you're starting out, bringing a sleeping bag is very, you got to stay warm at night or else you could have a miserable time. When it comes to different sleeping bags that I recommend, probably when it comes to the premium is a company called Feathered Friends. Now, Feathered Friends, because they use down, like duck and goose down, to fill their sleeping bags, and they're very renowned for how transparent they are with the down, like how it's sourced, but also like the quality of down they have and the amount of down. Like a lot of companies will use like this or that rating of down to try to bring in customers, but then skimp on different, maybe not put as much down in it. And so Feathered Friends is very transparent, giving you the best, honestly, down sleeping bags on the market. Other than that, Nemo Equipment sells very good sleeping bags for around $270 to $330, like this one that is rated, depending on which one you get, at 15 to 30 degrees. Or if you go on REI, there's this Kelty. Honestly, as a new bushcrafter or a new outdoor adventurer at all, I would get this Kelty Cosmic 20 sleeping bag, and it's rated for 20 degrees, and it's filled with down. Make sure to bring a pad. The debate between an inflatable pad and a foam pad ultimately just comes down to personal preference. In general, inflatable pads are more comfortable but weigh a little more, and then a foam sleeping bag might be a little more bulky but maybe easier to use, but maybe not as comfortable. So it just comes down to personal preference. You have this Thermarest Neo Air Pad that runs for about $200. If you want to go down to foam, most go to this Nemo foam pad, which runs for $50, or you can find something for around $20 on Amazon, like this budget selection. Different backpacks, obviously you have to carry the gear in some sort of backpack. So there's a few different options that you can go down. First is you can try to find some everyday backpack to use, or you can go more towards tactical backpacks, hiking backpacks, or a true backpacking pack. Now, when it comes to everyday backpack, Yeti has released a very high quality backpack for $250. That it's very, very high quality material. A lot of it though you're paying honestly for the brand. So you have this Kiwi other backpack for $139, or you can find a reasonably priced backpack on Amazon, or you can just use the one in your closet. When it comes to tactical backpacks, I think this is where it gets a little bit better. We have this Kiwi submersible backpack. Now this runs for about $400, but I think honestly you can use it as a floating device. Don't quote me on that, but it's very waterproof and very, very nice. Or you can find a 511 backpack. Is a great brand. It's been around for a long time and very tried and true and tested. Or you can find some sort of technical backpack on Amazon. When it comes to hiking backpacks, my go-to, this is essentially a small day pack, is Osprey. Osprey, you have the Downburst 36. 36 describes like how the capacity, like the actual volume of the backpack. This is waterproof, runs for about $300. Most opt for like a non-waterproof backpack with a tarp, like this Scarab 30. Osprey runs for about $150, so like about more than half the price of the waterproof version, but is usually the go-to as it has like the waist straps and it has all the things that you would need to start out. Or you can find a backpack on Amazon. This Into Daypack 35 is highly recommended. It has the waist straps. It has, a lot of the quality isn't necessarily overly heavy, but you might miss out on some of like the track record and some of the durability that Osprey has. When it comes to backpacking packs, we have first this Osprey Atmos AG. This is a very durable backpack. It runs $340 right now and is a capacity of 65 liters, so essentially like double the size of these Osprey Scarabs. Now, the reason that some people don't necessarily like this pack is it's a little heavy. If you want a lightweight version, if weight is a major consideration, that you can also use like when you're backpacking, is this Exos 58. So it has a little bit less capacity, like weight capacity than the Atmos, but it's about half the weight. Or you can find any sort of reasonably priced backpacking pack at REI like this decathlon bag that runs for about $139. And it is still not overly heavy. It isn't necessarily the lightest backpack on the market, but a great go-to if you're getting into it. So the last few like miscellaneous gear that I think about when going bushcrafting, like some of these are very crucial, so I'd make sure to have this on your checklist. First is a first aid kit. Now, a first aid kit, some people overthink or, exaggerate how important it is to bring a first aid kit, but I think a first aid kit that's just an off-the-shelf Band-Aids and maybe butterfly bandages, like really isn't gonna, it isn't what you're looking for. What you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna find a quality first aid kit that does have a lot of those basic things, but also consider like your personal medical things, like make sure that you have like pills if you have some sort of medical condition, and make sure you have things to take care of yourself in the wild, because ultimately you are responsible for your own self when you're out there. Other things that a lot of bushcrafters bring is Garmin. This InReach Mini 2 is a GPS navigator. It can communicate directly with satellites and send messages. Now, the benefit of this is it's a little more reliable than, let's say, your iPhone GPS communicator, but it does cost about $400 to buy the communicator, but also you have to buy a subscription to be able to use the satellite. Other than that, if you're going in the bear country, bringing bear spray is crucial. Like first practicing smart, bear country hygiene by keeping your food away from camp, putting it in a tree or a bear box, even toothpaste you got to leave away from a camp, but also preparing yourself with bear spray to protect yourself from against a bear attack. There are some other items that might be usable to create shelters. Paracord. We also have baling wire, duct tape, a tarp, zip ties. All these things can be very helpful to help build your shelter. You might be able to build a shelter, but waterproofing the roof is very difficult. So some people will bring a tarp and use the tarp to waterproof the roof, and then maybe use twigs and logs and things to build your shelter. Make sure to bring hygiene kit, bring a compass. Just think about the things that you're gonna want in everyday life and realize that you're gonna be in the wild wanting those things. So make sure that you don't forget very crucial and important items. Thank you everyone for watching our Bushcraft Gear 101 video. If you like this content and want to see more, please like and subscribe. It helps us know what sort of content y'all want to see. So, see y'all.